The whistle came from behind the sealed wall, and I already knew 9 men had been buried standing up inside it. My name is Theodor Vranek, Night Structural Inspector. Hired 40 hours after the qualifier match flooded the new World Cup stadium's lowest service level. The Federation wanted a quiet report. No press, no delays. Just one man with a moisture meter walking sub-level 4, while the drainage pumps groaned. The elevator only descended to sub-level 3. Below that, a rusted access ladder dropped into standing black water that swallowed my calves. The pump crew had gone home. My work order listed a single problem: Corridor 9, structural settling, mortar failure behind Section Q supports. My headlamp found the corridor easy. 9 brick archways. Old brick. The kind fired in regional kilns a century before any FIFA committee drew a stadium footprint here. The construction blueprints listed this level as poured concrete. All of it. 2019. Nobody explained 9 hand-laid brick arches that predated the concrete by 90 years. I pressed my palm to the first arch. Warm. Underground brick should hold the cold of the water table. This mortar breathed heat like a chest. The regional archive, which I would only read the next morning, held the answer I was standing inside. This ground was once the Vlasic drainage marsh. In 1911, the town buried its plague dead here, but not the way ordinary dead get buried. The marsh folk believed drowning sickness spread through the horizontal grave, so they interred the infected upright, sealed inside standing brick columns, feet in the marsh water, so the sickness would drain downward forever and never crawl sideways into the living. 9 columns. 9 of the worst afflicted. The town called them the Standing 9 and forbade any horizontal structure from ever crossing above them. The stadium had crossed above them. 90,000 seats. A horizontal grave the size of a district, pressed directly onto the vertical dead. I didn't know any of that yet. I only knew the mortar was wet in the wrong pattern. I scraped the 3rd arch with my blade, and the mortar peeled like soaked bread. Behind it, packed marsh clay. In the clay, a shape, a shoulder, a collarbone. A jaw hinged open in the exact geometry of a scream held for 100 years. I stumbled backward into the black water. My moisture meter shrieked its overload tone and died. That's when the whistle came. High. Metallic. A P-whistle trill. The referee's whistle, bouncing off 9 arches at once. There is no referee on sub-level 4. There is no air movement to sound a whistle. But the water around my knees began pulling, draining, sucking downward through the grate beneath Corridor 9. With a sound like a throat swallowing, the fingers came up through the grate as the water dropped. Gray fingers, marsh clay fingers, not reaching for me, reaching up, straining toward the 90,000 empty seats far above, toward the horizontal weight that had violated the vertical law. 100 years of drainage sickness, held in check by upright burial, and the stadium had finally laid the forbidden flat structure across the top and pressed the sideways spread back into motion. I ran. The access ladder was gone under fresh clay. In its place, a 10th arch, new, wet mortar still glistening. And scratched into that wet mortar, letter by letter, was Theodor Vranek, the carving bleeding orange rust, as though the metal of my own name resisted being written into the wall. The Standing 9 were not trying to escape. I understood it then, standing chest deep in draining marsh water, with a dead whistle screaming through brick. The ritual required 9 to hold the sickness downward. But horizontal construction breaks a vertical grave. The law demanded the count be restored, and one column stood empty, cracked open by my own blade. The marsh does not care whose collarbone fills the arch. It only needs the number 9, standing, feet in water, forever draining the horizontal plague away from 90,000 living bodies above. The clay closed around my boots, not pulling down, building up, setting me upright. I screamed for the pump crew. I screamed at the Federation's silence, at the buried blueprints, at the century of townsfolk who knew and let a stadium rise anyway because the tourism money was worth more than 9 old ghosts. The clay reached my thighs and held me straight as a support beam. My headlamp tilted up and lit the underside of the arch, and I saw the marks the previous inspector had left, and the one before. Small columns, human tall. The Federation had lost workers down here before. Quietly. No press. No delays. The whistle stopped. In the silence, I felt the sideways sickness settle. The horizontal weight above me eased, satisfied. The drainage restored. The plague pressed back down into the water table where 100-year-old ritual demanded it stay. My chest went cold with marsh water. My arms locked at my sides. The clay reached my collarbone, and I understood the final mercy of the standing 9. They had felt this too, upright and aware, keeping 90,000 strangers safe with their own frozen lungs. My jaw locked open. The last of my headlamp died against gray brick. They found my abandoned equipment at the top of the ladder 6 days later. Moisture meter, blade, a work order for Corridor 9, Section Q. The Federation logged me as a no-show who quit without notice, common enough with contractors, and sealed sub-level 4 permanently under a new poured slab, horizontal concrete, fresh weight pressing down. The stadium opened on schedule. 90,000 people sang above 10 standing columns, feet in black water, jaws open, draining a sickness downward so it never spread sideways into the living. If you sit in Section Q during the second half, when the crowd goes quiet between chants, you may hear a thin metal whistle rise up through the concrete. A pea whistle trill, the count holding, the law obeyed. Don't scratch the mortar. There is always room for